What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Ultimate Achievement Show. I am your host, Dr. Matthew Westheimer. And today on the episode, we have Lieutenant Joe Johnson. Lieutenant Joe is from Anderson, South Carolina, and he currently works for the Rock Hill Police Department with over 25 years of law enforcement experience. On the episode today, we discuss what do you do when you get a cancer diagnosis and only 5% chance of surviving? What's the power of the mind and how do we harness it? How do we build a powerful community to rally behind us when we need it and for us to rally behind others when they need it? And much, much more. He has an unbelievable story about an experience that happened to him 5 years ago that he had to overcome, and it really put a lot of things in my life in perspective. During his law enforcement career, he's worked as a correctional officer, a field training officer, a shift investigator, an undercover narcotics officer, a detective, a training sergeant, a hostage negotiator. He is a graduate of the Administrative Officers Management Program through NC State University, and he's currently a patrol lieutenant and a motivational speaker. Today was absolutely a blast for me to be able to do this interview. He's an unbelievable person, an unbelievable man, and an unbelievable leader. On the episode, we did have a little bit of technical difficulties with the sound with the internet, but I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. Just see through the little glitches here and there, and the message will still be incredibly powerful. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Lieutenant Joe Johnson. A couple months back, Joe, when we met at a coffee shop, I remember you sharing kind of the inspiration behind why you're doing what you're doing and why you're so passionate about giving back to the community. And it really inspired me. So will you go ahead and share that for the audience?
Yeah. For me, when I started my business, it was learning the power of never giving up and the power of hope. And the reason I started mainly is because around October of 2015, I started working out, trying to get myself into shape, trying to get my body ready for, whatever comes work-wise, just being, really fit and everything. So around October, November, December, I'm working out. January 2016, while I'm doing the shoulder exercises in the gym, I start feeling this pain in my left shoulder and my left arm. And I didn't pay too much attention to it. I figured, okay, maybe I just pulled something, or maybe I, strained or did something like that. And I kept on working out, and progressively it just, got worse over time. And I'd say around 6 months into it, I started feeling when I put my arms on a table, or I'd be eating or something or resting in bed, I'd feel this pain coming up my arm into my neck, and it was just causing a lot of pain and discomfort. So me being a man, I'm still waiting, not thinking too much about it. And by that time I'm researching, and I'm thinking that, okay, it's probably a torn rotator cuff or something. So I wait another 2 or 3 months, and by that time we're 8 to 9 months in, and the pain's just unbearable. So then I go to the doctor to get it checked out. They go and do the x-rays. Obviously, they don't find anything. So when I go home, the pain is still there. I go back, the x-ray again, they can't find anything. Then they send me up to Charlotte to do an MRI. So when I get there to do the MRI, I do it, and the test results come back, and in a nutshell, they're looking at it, and the guy, I think he was a physician's assistant, he's looking at it and he's saying, we don't know what this is, so we're going to send you over to Levine Cancer. So what I'm looking at on the screen is my left arm and the bone. And on the screen, it looks like these popcorn structures that are on my bone. And I asked the guy, is that on the outside of my bone or inside my bone? And he said, that's on the inside, and we have no idea what it is. So they send me over to Levine Cancer, and that started the process. And of course, I'm thinking in my mind, Levine Cancer, just for a, soreness in my arm. So when I get there, obviously, like I said, they're doing the test. First they start out with they go into my arm, take a bone graft or a what do you call it?
Biopsy.
A biopsy. They do the biopsy with a small needle. That comes back negative. They're saying it looks like this, looks like that, but we're not sure. So the second time they go in, they go through my back, down by my spine, and that was excruciating pain. I mean, they tried to numb me up, but it did not help. The lady that I was dating at the time, she was, there for me, and I was just squeezing her hand so hard. I mean, it was just with all my strength, I was squeezing. She was just kind of bending down because of the pain, because it was so hard. And they pulled the bone marrow out and everything. Did the test on that. They couldn't come back with anything. So by then we're roughly 2 months in. So roughly 2.5 months to close to 3 months, they did the third one. And this time they went into my shoulder and they took about a nickel size or quarter size diameter of a plug out of my left shoulder to do the graft wet. And they said, we should be able to tell what type of cancer or what this is when we do this. They knew it was cancer. They just didn't know what type because it looked like different things. So roughly 2.5, 3 months in, it took them that long to diagnose me. So what it came back was it was called Angiosarcoma of bone. It's an extremely rare cancer. And I was told at the time that only I had about a 5 to 7% chance of living in the next 5 years. And obviously I went through all the testing and all the processes I need to go through, roughly 28 days of radiation, roughly 7 months of chemotherapy. And, during that whole time, all I could think about was my daughter. And obviously the third time that they went in and did the test, when they took that big plug out of my arm and filled it with cement, after that procedure and me going through the process, they actually replaced that bone with a metal rod in my shoulder. And so, like I said, all I could think about was my daughter at the time. And, she and I are very, very close and we do things all the time. And like I said, they said a 5 to 7% chance of living. It was like a real shock to me. And during that time, I was out of work for about 7 months. And my captain and some other officers at the police department and where I work and other folks from the fire department, they come together, and it was mainly my captain, Captain Rod Stinson, that basically put this fundraiser together for me. And there was another lady outside of the police department that put a fundraiser together for me to raise money while I was out of work, obviously. And at the time, it was just unbelievable the amount of support that I got from the community after roughly 25 years in law enforcement. I didn't realize that there was that many people that really either knew of me, or, I figured it was going to be, mostly police officers showing up and donating and, that type of thing. It'd be a little small thing, but this thing went crazy. It almost went viral to where the whole community came together. I was on television a couple of times. I was interviewed by, different people, radio stations, news stations. It just went crazy. And I was like, wow. And all the money that was raised, it helped me out so much with with my bills and everything that I had to pay and everything, because, I was out of the working the off-duty stuff to supplement my income and everything. It was just seeing that the community come together the way that they did. It was just very, very inspiring. Now, it took me a while, to get back on my feet. Like I said, I was out of work for about 7 months. And when I went back to work after I went into the detective division as a lieutenant temporarily and my rank is lieutenant, but they put me there. And during that time, I was still going through chemotherapy because they said, if you go through this additional chemotherapy, that will give you an additional 5, maybe 7% chance of living as well. So I'm like, hell yeah, let's do it. So I went another couple of months with the extra time of chemotherapy. And during that time, I was working light duty in the detective division. And then after that, I was able to transition myself back to my regular position as a lieutenant on patrol. But then there was a challenge with that because my ability with my left arm, I can't raise it. So I did everything I could to try to train my muscles and all that, because the biggest thing was the driving and the shooting. And one part of our qualifications course is to be able to shoot with your weak hand, and there's 5 rounds that you shoot, and you have to get all 5 of those rounds. Well, I knew I couldn't raise my arm high enough, but I could go to the lower position, fire the weapon, because basically the reason we do that is if someone is attacking you and you can't raise your gun up and you're able to put your gun down to your waist, you can fire the weapon at that level. So I was able to do that. I missed all the shots, but the other 45 shots I was able to get in the target. And that was the only thing that basically saved my job. And I just kept pushing forward because I didn't want to go out on medical leave or anything like that. I didn't want to go out like that, especially with all the support that was given to me. And I just had to basically fight like crazy to get back into the game of it, of working and everything. And that saved me. And then the driving was a challenge as well, because some parts of our driving course, there's a lot of backing, and obviously you have to raise yourself up in the seat and look over your shoulder and back through the cones and all that. And all the cones represented a person. And if you hit one, that represented basically you killed a person. So I was able to get through that. It was a challenge. And so a few months after that, just going through a lot of, internal, I could say a little bit of depression, but nothing major, but just going through those stages, seeing life's going to be headed. The lady that I was dating at the time, she told me, she said, you have a pretty good story about it. And so that's when I started. That's what motivated me to start my business, mostly focused on motivational. But like I said, it took a turn, or the market, because of my job, has been pushing me more toward awareness and with a little bit of inspiration mixed into it. And so that's basically why, because like I said, it was just unbelievable. And you can go out and search my name. You could probably find a lot of the interviews and everything that I did on television, television and radio. So it was very, very, it was crazy, man. It was wild.
It was unbelievable when you shared that story with me, because I had absolutely no idea. Because when I first met you, you had a smile on your face from ear to ear. You have this enthusiasm, this joy. You would never expect that someone like yourself had to go through that level of hardship. And I have so many questions that I want to ask you right now. So why don't we start going back to the beginning again with that? And what did it feel like when they first told you that you had cancer? I know you mentioned that you were in a little bit of denial, but when you first had that realization, like, oh my God, this could be more serious than just a strain. They're sending me to Levine Cancer Center. What was that feeling that you had? How did that feel at that moment?
Mostly it was the denial kept going for a few months. Nothing really sat in for me because I was mostly the guys like, this could not happen to me. It was just more unbelievable. And like I said, after about 2 or 3 months, things started sinking in, and the reality of death started coming in. And that's where I started feeling down. And my daughter came into play because, I'd gone through a divorce a few years prior to that, back in 2013. I wanted to keep that connection with my daughter. And like I said, that slight little little piece of depression just sat in, and it was just really, really heartbreaking because I was like, in the next 5 years, I may not be here, because this thing could, spread very quickly. And obviously, with cancer, it basically where it was at in my arm, obviously it'll go to your chest or your brain. And that was a huge worry, and it kept me up. And I just have to be honest, there was a lot of times, I was crying. Even when I went to work, even, when I was on light duty, a lot of people didn't see it. I didn't share any of it on Facebook. I didn't want anybody feeling pity for me. Even when they did the fundraiser, I felt a little bad because I just felt like, I'm taking these people's money, even though I have a job. I just kind of felt bad for that. And there was just so many people coming to me with, gifts and presents and blankets, and it was just crazy. And I just felt really, really bad. But one of the chaplains at my job, he told me, he said, you should not feel bad about anything that you're being blessed with. He said, you should, accept all this that's coming to you, because I was turning down some of the things that were coming to me. There's some people that I turned them away, and I was like, listen, I appreciate it, but there are people giving me stuff and they didn't even have a job. And I'm like, whoa, one friend of mine, she wasn't working, and she did a fundraiser for me. And I'm like, I can't take this money from you. I cannot do it. So I did not accept the money from her. And so a little bit later, I was able to help her out with some stuff when I went back to work. But she said, Joe, you need to take this. I want you to take this. And I was like, no, I cannot do that. I'm good. It was just things like that. But to get back to what you were asking me, I just felt really, really bad. It's just, I went through a slight period of a minor depression with it. And it was just terrible. And it took me a little while to get out of it.
What was the transition point that took you from that feeling of depression and feeling defeated and just not knowing if you were going to make it to, I'm going to pull through and I'm going to do everything that I can to get through this and be there for my daughter? Do you remember that moment for you when that transition happened?
The transition, yes, I do, and you hit it right on the head. It was my daughter. It was basically my daughter, and that fight that I have into me to never give up. That was the transition period for me, because I was sitting here. Like I said, I can sit here and go on medical leave and go down with this slight depression, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. Or I might go out here, kind of defy a little bit of what the doctor was telling me not to do, because there's a lot of things that he told me not to do that I did do because he didn't want my arm to break because it was so fragile and stuff. But I went out there and did it anyway. I was pulling on stuff and lifting stuff that I shouldn't lift. So I was just kept fighting through. I was trying to, they give you the exercises when you go through the, what do you call it? The, I can't think about the physical therapy. And he only wanted me to go to physical therapy a couple of weeks, but, in which I did. And he said that, for me, physical therapy wasn't really going to help me, but I went, did it, did a lot of, like I said, a lot of things outside of what he told me to do. And I just kept pushing through to try to get that muscle to get that strength. And he told me about my range of motion with my arm, and I didn't believe him. And I told him I was going to prove him wrong, but obviously science beat me out. And, but, I'm able to function with it, and I like to say I have male strength in my right arm and female strength in my left arm. So I'm doing pretty good. There's some challenges with it, but it was just that drive and determination to beat the odds with it. And that was basically it, along with my daughter. And that was the transition for me. Just never give up.
And you have a combination of both male and female strength in your heart that allows you to persevere. But I want to share a couple of lessons from that. I think you mentioned that science kind of prevailed. And while I think part of that is definitely true, I think also you can't deny the aspect of having a purpose and a will to survive and a purpose greater than yourselves. So if you look at the blue zones, the longest living people in the world, they study these pockets around the world where people live healthy over 100 years old. These are the largest density of these areas. And what they found there is they found that there were 9 qualities that these people have. And a lot of people talk about that they have a certain diet or a certain movement type of a practice where they keep active. And those things are all true. But they find that one of the number one thing is that they have a sense of purpose bigger than themselves. There's a contribution to their society and to the people that they're with and to the community that they're a part of. And we find that one of the most common times that a person will die is the year after they retire. And so I think that by you staying working, while yes, there was a certain risk to your shoulder, that staying working and feeling like you're contributing to society, there's something that you have to look forward to every day. There was a distraction from being depressed. There was a providership for your daughter and for your family. That a lot of times I think is just as powerful as science can be when it comes to moving forward and overcoming things. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I agree with you 100%. I definitely do. And like I said, just seeing that outlook and being positive, that's the only thing that, like you said, that helped me with it, and that purpose as well, because I had to dig deep and even before I started my business, I was like, what can I do business wise, or what is it that motivates me? What is it that inspires me? And I knew that what I found was when I dug deep and what really got to my heart, the reason why I want to start a motivational thing is I asked myself, what gets you in your heart? And what got me in my heart was motivational, inspirational type stories. That gets me all the time. And I said, that's it. That's what I want to do business wise going forward was that. And then just like you said, just staying positive, have that positive energy.
There was something else that you said, Joe, that really kind of hit me, where you were mentioning to me that it was hard for you to accept gifts or giving from other people. And your chaplain is like, you really need to accept these things. And I remember, and still to this day, but growing up, and I love giving to people. I like giving to people more than I give to myself. So I don't usually buy things for myself. That doesn't make me happy. But when I'm able to do something for somebody else, that makes me a lot happier. But I'm not very good at receiving. Like, I don't like when people go out of their way or inconvenience themselves or sacrifice in order to provide me with something. And I was mentioning that to somebody someday, and their response to me is like, when you deny a gift from somebody else, you're denying them the pleasure and the fulfillment of doing something nice for you. So even though you think that you're doing a nice thing by not letting somebody pay for your lunch or not letting somebody do a favor for you, what you're actually doing is a very selfish act, because you're thinking about how are you going to feel by receiving it and not what they're going to feel by having the opportunity to do something nice for you. And it's still a challenge for me to accept when people want to do nice things for me. I always feel like, I need to repay them, or I shouldn't accept this. But I realize that if I do try to exchange the favor, where I make it transactional, where, hey, you can buy lunch today, but I'm going to take care of lunch next time. Like, then I'm making it a transaction where that person isn't looking at it like a transaction. They're looking at it as something to contribute to the relationship. And what I'm doing is I'm not honoring that individual by not allowing them to do something nice for me and just to receive it graciously. So I've worked very hard at receiving graciously without feeling like I need to deny that person that the pleasure of doing something nice. So I think that it's an incredible, it's also a testament to the leadership and the kind of person that you are for your community, that so many people wanted to come together for you. And to go through that, and I just want to go back to that moment again, because I think that you made it very clear, but I want to just get a little bit deeper with that. It's one thing to have cancer, right? And they told you had cancer. and you're like, all right, I have cancer, I'm going to pull through. But when they told you that you only had a 5 to 7% chance of surviving, because a lot of cancers have 50% survival, 70% survival. This was 5% survival. And you're here just pretty much 5 years later, as healthy as you've ever been. And so when they told you that, what was it, just your daughter? Like, what was it exactly that was like, I have a 95% chance from what they told me that I'm not going to make it, but forget that. Forget what they said. I'm going to push through this. How did you make that decision? Because most people in your situation, even with families, with kids, they just kind of sit back and they're just defeated. They're like, I can't do this. So what was it inside of you that allowed you the opportunity to fight for it?
Well, like I said, the daughter, but I just didn't see myself dead. I mean, just plain and simple. I just didn't see myself dead in the next 5 years. And to be more exact, I'm roughly 3 years into cancer, being cancer free, but I just didn't see that. I just didn't see that for myself. And, you put this positive energy out in the universe and all that stuff, and everything's going to be positive and everything. And I believe in the law of attraction and all that stuff. But that was basically it. I just did not see it because, for me, I just saw myself progressing forward and living past it. And, I still believe, if you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand type thing. So that's just what I saw for myself. Now, obviously, I'm a realist. I know that it could come back and I can go through this or whatever, but that's just where I'm just keeping my mind, my focus on, surviving. I just did not see myself being dead at the time. And I know that, God has a purpose. I'm here for a purpose or reason. And he spared me for a while. And it could be because of my, me wanting to start the business and spread the word of hope and inspiration and motivation and all that. But like I said, that the biggest thing, I just did not see myself dying. I did not. And I knew that if I stayed home, if I did not have that willpower to live, I knew my health would deteriorate even more. I knew by me not getting out, doing some of the things that I wanted to do, defying some of the things that the doctor told me not to do, I knew my health was going to go down. I knew that if I retired medically, the depression would probably kick in 1,000%. And it'd be just like what you said earlier, after people retire, especially police officers, within that next year or two, or within that next 5 years, they're gone. And I just didn't see that for myself.
Well, I love it. In my mind, I'm overcomplicating things by asking you, what was it that motivated you? What inspired you? How did you go from that 5% survival to I'm going to push through this? And the answer, there's so much power in simplicity. And it's just, I didn't see myself dead. That's it. And you know what? I can't think of a greater place to start from. And so, the lesson, I'm always looking for the lessons in these things. And it's like, because a lot of people that listen to this show are higher achiever type personalities that are running their own businesses. Plus, we're recording this during the COVID-19 thing going on where a lot of people and businesses are suffering. And I think it all starts when people give up, it's because they don't see themselves winning. They just don't see themselves, like, it all has to come from the first thing, seeing yourself successful, seeing yourself making an impact, seeing failure as not an option. Could it happen? Absolutely. But I'm not looking at it. Like, I'm looking forward, right, and I'm looking to what can I do? What possibilities do I see for myself? And just that. And then the second thing you said was then just taking massive action on it. Like, get depressed for a little bit. It's normal. Like, it's not normal if you go through a hardship just to push it aside and ignore it and push through it. It's normal to go through a period where you feel a bit depressed or you feel anxious or you feel upset or overwhelmed, but you just don't want to live in that state. You can feel that state for a period of time. You just don't want to live in that state. You want to move forward from it. And so now that you've gone through that, I mean, anybody that's gone through a hardship like that, it creates a perspective on life that could have never been created otherwise. And so ever since you've had to go through that, how do you look at challenges now? Like, I would imagine any kind of stress, financial stress, what's going on in the world, somebody says something that you don't like about yourself, or pick the challenge. I imagine that everything has to just completely pale in comparison. You're like, I may be going through this, but at least I'm not going through that again right now. So how do you look at challenges now after going through what you've been through?
Well, honestly, the way I look at it is, I went through some stuff, but on my job, when I look at other people of what they're going through, my situation can't compare to theirs, because in reality, they're going through way more. Even though I had a 5 to 7% chance of living, I look at it as being, there's no excuse for me not to try harder or to do better or try to get myself to the next level or anything, because there are people out there that are in a much worse situation than I am. And obviously the ultimate is them losing their life through, a disease or something. So for me, that's just one of the kickers for that. When I do face something, is like, okay, yes, I had it bad, and there's a little brightness to my future. But when I look at when I compare myself, and I know sometimes you shouldn't do it, but I do it, in reality, I compare myself to someone else's situation. I'm like, I have no excuse not to try to get better. So that's what it does for me when I compare myself to other people's situation.
Yeah, and that is the people that are successful. What they do is they don't look at people that are more successful and put themselves down. When they go through a challenge, they look around at other people that might have it harder, and it's not to put them down, but it's so that way you have perspective and gratitude for what you're going through. And I remember years ago when I injured myself. I've always been addicted to working out, sometimes in a healthy way, sometimes in a not so healthy way. And that's where I keep my sanity, is from exercise and from working out. And I injured myself so bad to where I could barely move for a couple of months. And every step was excruciatingly painful. Every moment. In the middle of the night, I was waking up in pain. It was just 24/7 pain. I couldn't even put my socks on. It took me 10 minutes to put my socks on each morning. And I went from being a high-level athlete to barely being able to put my socks on. And ever since then, even now, and this was years ago, this was probably 8 years ago, when I go for a walk, I still work on being grateful for every step that I get to take, because I remember what it was like to be in that situation. And anytime I feel like I don't want to exercise, or I don't want to, or, I'm having to walk longer than I expected to, or work harder physically than I really want to, and it's exhausting me, I think about, what about these people that are missing limbs, or they're stuck in a wheelchair, or they're paralyzed from the waist down or the neck down? They don't even have the choice. I need to do it on behalf of them, because they would never take it for granted ever again if they had the ability to go back to that. And so I need to honor these people by showing more gratitude for what I do have. And I think that creating that level of perspective that you've created, that not like, oh, poor me, I'm going through this, why does this have to happen to me? That's a way that you live in that depression. But being able to look at it and say, hey, you know what? This kind of stinks, but there are other people that are out there that have it worse than me. And the way that I honor them and honor myself is by looking forward and doing everything that I can to work through this. And so whether you did all of that consciously, or, that's just the nature of who you are, I think that it just shows what an extraordinary human being you are, to be able to do something like that and to have that level of perspective. And That's why I wanted to bring you on the show today to share that stuff with everybody. So then oh, go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, no, I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to talk to somebody like yourself, and it helps to put things into focus for my own self, because I'm not perfect and I get down on certain things and certain hardships and things like that. But then when I look at it, I'm like, man, if Joe can get through what he went through with a smile on his face and with that passion in his heart, then I can do it too. And it's a wonderful thing. And so since you went through that, now you've been looking at pursuing, obviously you're still a lieutenant with the police department, but you're also looking at doing motivational and inspirational speaking as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what I want to do with that, the next level with that, what I want to do is take that to the level of Oprah Winfrey or Ellis, to where I'm, how we were talking about, and you were discussing about, we feel kind of bad when people give us stuff. What really gets to me as well is when given to other people. And I want to get to that level at some point. And I know I'll get there. I don't know when, but I want to get to the point where I can start, giving out gifts to people, have my own show, start my podcast or something, or be on television or something, start something where I can just start giving gifts, surprises. That really, really gets to me when I'm able to do that. And I feel that, that gratitude by giving to others and helping them out with people that are less fortunate to me. And that's the ultimate goal that I want in the future with my business.
And that's why I think, a lot of people look at success as a selfish act or a one-dimensional act, where to be successful, it means taking away from other people. But what I love, one of the quotes that I love, it says, you can't help the poor by becoming one of them. And when you have a mission and a vision bigger than yourself, you're delivering an incredible service and a product. And then you're capturing value in the terms of a financial exchange that's less than what you're giving, then you're really giving people an incredible service. And then the more successful that you are, the more people you help. And then you have the financial means to be able to use that and give that back and help even more people. So then you have multiple avenues and platforms that you're able to serve people and give back to people. And I think that that being led from a service, that passion to serve, I think what the trap that a lot of people fall into is the trap of me or myself, where everyone's looking at how much money can I make? How much stuff can I accumulate? And then they're never really fulfilled and their success reaches a plateau. Because once you have a certain amount of money, there's not a whole lot more money that's going to be worth working those extra hours, late nights, early mornings for, unless you have a purpose bigger than yourself of contributing something to the world. And so I have no doubt that you're going to get there. And I'm honored to be your friend and to have connected with you and have the opportunity to see all of this unfold in real time.
Oh, absolutely. And same here, man. I'm so grateful to meet you and see you speak and everything. And that's why when I learned a little bit about you from Toastmasters and hearing you speak, get up there and do some of the things that we have to do at Toastmasters, I was like, I'd like to have that guy on my team. That's why I wanted to do that, awareness piece and all that before COVID-19 hit and all that. And I know that had us put a little backseat to it, but I'm still, my wheels are still turning on that. And hopefully at some point myself, you and Gina can get together and start this. And, like you said, it's not necessarily about the money. And yeah, the money will come a little later, but that's not our focus. It's like, getting the message out there, getting this, all that stuff will come later. So, and serving. So that's the biggest thing. I just want to give back, in some kind of way, whether it's monetarily, it's just a speech or awareness, or if, giving a big gift, surprise, or something. I want to get to that level to where I can just do that on a consistent basis, and do that for people just to give back, whether it's here in this community, other communities. Obviously, I want to start here because of the support that I received. And, it was just overwhelming. And I didn't know that the city was going to turn out like that. And there were people from all over the country and, the places that were coming here that heard my story, but obviously want to, branch out to Charlotte and other cities and do the same thing with that. So,
yeah, well, you're doing it, Joe, and we're doing it right now. And so I know that just people hearing this, it's going to inspire a lot of people. And so before we jump off here, is there anything else that I haven't asked you that you would like to share with everybody?
I think you covered a lot of it.
All right, great. Now, if people want to reach out to you and kind of follow what you're up to or connect with you, what's the best place to reach out to you or connect with you?
Well, they can call me on my cell, which is 803-984-5276. Again, 803-984-5276. Or they can go to my website, which is www.joejohnsonenterprisesllc.com. Or they could email me at lt.joejohnson, the number 5, the number 0, at gmail.com. That's my email address.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for coming on the show and having this conversation with us. And it was as inspiring as when I heard it the first time, and even more so finding out some more of the details behind it now. And so keep doing what you're doing, Joe, because you're making a difference, and look forward to doing this again sometime.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
I hope you guys really enjoyed that one, and it has inspired you to live your life bigger than you ever have before. I know it has definitely done that for me. If you really like this episode, please go ahead and share it. Share it on social media, share it in an email, tell somebody about it, give us a like. We love to hear from you guys. We love to see you guys engage with us. And if you'd like to reach out to Lieutenant Joe Johnson, you can reach him at lt.joejohnson50@gmail.com. You can also find him at www.joejohnsonenterprisesllc.com or directly at his phone number at 803-984-5276. As always, I'd love to hear from you. You can find us at precisionchiroclt.com, on Facebook at Precision Chiropractic Charlotte, or you can just email me directly at drmatt@precisionchiroclt.com. Thank you guys so much again. And until next time, keep achieving.